Back in 1999, nobody could have predicted that a movie about soap, insomnia, and underground fighting would go on to become one of the most iconic cult classics of all time. Fight Club, directed by David Fincher and based on Chuck Palahniuk's novel, wasn't an immediate box office success. But over time, it gained a massive following and cemented itself as one of the most talked about films of the late 90s. It's a movie about alienation, consumer culture, masculinity, and identity. But it's also a film packed with weird production stories, hidden details, and behind-the-scenes secrets that even die-hard fans might not know. So today, we're going deep into the basement to uncover 20 weird facts you didn't know about Fight Club.
Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
Fact number 1. Brad Pitt went to the dentist just for the role. Brad Pitt wanted his portrayal of Tyler Durden in Fight Club to feel raw, messy, and far from the polished Hollywood norm. To fully commit to that vision, he went to his dentist and asked to have his perfectly straight front teeth chipped on purpose. It was a bold choice, one that instantly gave his character a grungy, unpredictable edge. For the duration of filming, Pitt lived with the imperfect teeth, letting them become part of Durden's unhinged persona. Combined with his wild wardrobe and anarchic energy, the chipped teeth made the character look authentically reckless. After production wrapped, Pitt had them restored, but the commitment to altering his appearance remains one of the most memorable examples of an actor disappearing into a role. It was a small physical detail, yet it reinforced everything about Durden, a man who rejects perfection, embraces chaos, and lives by his own rules. That dedication helped cement Pitt's performance as one of his most iconic. But Pitt wasn't the only actor who went to extremes. Edward Norton had his own ways of staying in character.
Yes, these are bruises from fighting. Yes, I'm comfortable with that. I am enlightened.
Fact number 2. Edward Norton actually hit Brad Pitt. There's a famous scene in Fight Club where Edward Norton unexpectedly punches Brad Pitt in the ear. What makes it so memorable is that it wasn't in the script at all. Just before rolling the camera, David Fincher quietly told Norton, "Hit him in the ear." Norton, always game for a little unpredictability, went through with it. The punch landed awkwardly, catching Pitt completely off guard. His startled reaction, "Ow, why the ear?" wasn't acting. It was pure pain and confusion. But that raw, unfiltered response was exactly what Fincher wanted. It captured the messy, spontaneous violence at the heart of the film. Fincher loved the authenticity so much, he left it in the final cut, proving how real chaos, when caught on camera, can sometimes outshine even the best written lines. That tiny unscripted moment became one of the movie's most quoted exchanges, and a perfect example of Fincher's willingness to sacrifice polish for truth. And speaking of Fincher, his directing style made sure nothing about this movie was easy.
This is a chemical burn. It will hurt more than you've ever been burned, and you will have a scar. What are you doing?
Fact number 3. Fincher shot 1,500 reels of film. David Fincher was infamous for demanding endless takes, and Fight Club became one of his most extreme examples. Reports say he shot around 1,500 reels of film, an outrageous number for the late 1990s. Some sequences had to be repeated 30, 40, even 50 times before Fincher felt the energy, timing, or delivery land exactly the way he envisioned. This method drove actors and crew to exhaustion, but it also forced them into a state of rawness, where performances felt lived in rather than rehearsed. The running joke among the team was that the movie shouldn't be called Fight Club at all. It should be called 50 Takes Club. While frustrating in the moment, Fincher's relentlessness gave this film its razor-sharp rhythm and iconic grit. By breaking actors down past their comfort zones, he captured a sense of messy realism that matched the chaos of the story. But Fincher's perfectionism wasn't just about performances. He also snuck in visual tricks everywhere.
We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars.
Fact number 4. Tyler Durden appears before he's introduced. Before Tyler Durden officially enters the story, Fincher teases the audience with subliminal glimpses. Tyler flashes on screen 4 times in single frames, each lasting just a fraction of a second. These moments happen when the narrator feels most alienated or detached from his life at work, in meetings, and during moments of insomnia. Fincher designed this as a subconscious clue, a way of showing Tyler's presence long before the narrator realizes it himself. The flashes mirror Tyler's supposed job splicing film reels with hidden images, making the audience experience the same disorientation. Most viewers didn't catch these flickers the first time, but once you know they're there, it's impossible to unsee. It's one of the clever visual tricks that makes Fight Club so endlessly rewatchable. And those weren't the only subliminal tricks hidden in the film.
The salt balance has to be just right, so the best fat for making soap comes from humans.
Fact number 5. The film itself has subliminal images. In the projectionist scene, Tyler brags about splicing single frames of adult films into family movies, just to mess with audiences. Fincher, never one to resist a meta joke, pulled the exact same trick on Fight Club. Throughout the film, he secretly inserted single frame shots of things you're not supposed to see. Sometimes Tyler, sometimes explicit imagery, flashing on screen for a fraction of a second. Most people didn't notice on their first viewing, but the subliminal frames create a subconscious unease, making the movie itself feel unstable and mischievous, just like Tyler. Fincher wanted the audience to experience the same disorientation as the characters, blurring the line between prank and reality. It's a playful, subversive detail that rewards sharp-eyed viewers and perfectly matches the film's anarchic spirit. But the visual tricks didn't stop there. Fincher even made the studio nervous.
Everything's far away. Everything's a copy of a copy.
Fact number 6. The coffee cup conspiracy. If you look closely on a rewatch, you'll notice something unusual. There's a Starbucks coffee cup in nearly every scene of Fight Club. Sometimes it's right in the middle of the frame, other times it's tucked away in the corner, but it's always there. Fincher later admitted he placed the cups on purpose, using them as a sly commentary on consumer culture and how corporate branding sneaks into every part of daily life. The director joked that Starbucks had become so common that you could barely turn a corner without seeing one. By scattering the logo across the film, he was mocking the idea of corporate saturation while also using it as visual shorthand for the narrator's soulless commercial world. Starbucks reportedly wasn't thrilled about being the butt of the joke, but surprisingly they allowed Fincher to go ahead with it. The result is one of the film's cleverest Easter eggs, hiding in plain sight, yet speaking volumes about the movie's anti-consumerist themes. But not every company was happy to be associated with Fight Club.
Monday mornings, all I could do was think about next week.
Fact number 7. Brand backlash was intense. While Starbucks ultimately went along with Fincher's running joke, not every company was so easygoing. Several big-name brands, including Volkswagen, objected to how their products were treated in the film. Since Fight Club shows cars getting smashed, buildings exploding, and consumer goods being trashed, companies were understandably wary about their logos being associated with destruction. The production team had to walk a fine line, carefully negotiating which brands could appear on screen and which had to be hidden, altered, or replaced. Some refused outright, while others agreed under very specific conditions. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here was a movie that openly mocked consumerism and corporate power, and yet it was bogged down in very real battles with those same corporations just to get made. It perfectly illustrated the exact message Fincher was trying to send, how deeply corporate branding and image control had embedded themselves in modern culture. And speaking of irony, the studio didn't always see the vision either.
I was a recall coordinator. My job was to apply the formula.
Fact number 8. The studio hated the first trailer. 20th Century Fox was completely stumped on how to market Fight Club. The studio executives weren't sure if it was a drama, a dark comedy, or something too controversial to sell at all. Their first trailer ended up presenting the film as a straight-up macho boxing movie, focusing heavily on Brad Pitt and Edward Norton throwing punches in the basement. It stripped away the satire, the psychological tension, and the critique of consumer culture that actually defined the film. David Fincher was furious, saying the campaign completely misrepresented his vision. He wanted audiences to understand it was about identity, disillusionment, and rebellion, not just sweaty men beating each other up. The mismatched marketing created confusion, and many moviegoers skipped it altogether. Combined with poor critical reception at first, the box office numbers were disappointing. Ironically, once Fight Club hit DVD, it became a massive success, proving that the problem wasn't the movie itself. It was how the studio tried and failed to sell it. But once the movie left theaters, it found a whole new life.
We all thought you were dead.
No, still here.
Fact number 9. DVD sales saved Fight Club. Fight Club may have stumbled at the box office, but it found new life on DVD in a way few films ever have. When the home release dropped, it didn't just sell well, it became a phenomenon. Millions of copies were sold within months, and it quickly ranked among the best-selling DVDs of all time. Suddenly, the same audiences who ignored the theatrical run were passing around copies, quoting lines and dissecting every hidden detail. The film's unconventional style, dark humor, and rebellious message resonated more deeply in living rooms and dorms than it did in theaters. On DVD, viewers could rewatch scenes, pause on subliminal frames, and share share it with friends, turning it into a word-of-mouth juggernaut. In the end, it was its second life on home media that transformed Fight Club from a misunderstood box office flop into a cultural cult classic it's celebrated as today. And if you own the DVD, you probably remember this little prank.
Tyler's door was closed. I'd been living here for 2 months and Tyler's door was never closed.
Fact number 10, the DVD starts with the wrong menu. When fans first popped the Fight Club DVD into their players, they were in for one of the most bizarre home video pranks ever. Instead of seeing the gritty menu they expected, the screen displayed a bright, pastel-colored menu for Never Been Kissed, the romantic comedy starring Drew Barrymore. For a moment, viewers thought they had been sold the wrong disc, or that something had gone terribly wrong in production. But just as confusion set in, the screen glitched and flickered before revealing the real Fight Club menu. It was a sly joke orchestrated by David Fincher, designed to mess with the audience before the movie even started. He wanted the DVD itself to reflect the film's chaotic, disorienting spirit, challenging expectations, poking fun at mainstream culture, and forcing fans to question reality. It became one of the most memorable Easter eggs in DVD history and perfectly captured the anarchic humor that defined Fight Club. But the pranks weren't just digital. The set itself was full of odd touches. Fact number 11, the house was built to decay. The dilapidated house where Tyler and the narrator lived wasn't some old abandoned building the production stumbled across. It was a carefully designed set created entirely from scratch. The crew built the structure specifically for the film, and then went to work distressing it. Walls were cracked, paint was peeled, wood was warped, and floors were looking left like they might cave in at any moment. Every detail was intentional, from the leaking pipes to the creaking staircases. Fincher wanted the house to feel like a living extension of the characters' inner turmoil, a decaying reflection of their fractured minds. The environment had to feel dangerous, unstable, and oppressive, matching the chaos and unraveling of reality that defined the story. By the time filming began, the house looked so convincingly ruined that many assumed it was an actual condemned property. In truth, it was movie-making craft at its finest. A physical symbol of destruction, built to fall apart. And when it came to physicality, the actors went all in too. Fact number 12, Pitt and Norton took real hits. While not every punch landed, both Brad Pitt and Edward Norton agreed early on to take some real hits during filming to keep the fights grounded in reality. They worked extensively with stunt coordinators to choreograph the sequences, but they also left room for moments of improvisation and real contact. This meant that many of the bruises, scrapes, and cuts audiences see on their faces weren't just makeup, they were genuine. David Fincher insisted the fights shouldn't look like polished Hollywood brawls where every movie is perfectly timed. Instead, he wanted them to feel clumsy, chaotic, and brutally messy, exactly the way an underground basement fight would play out. The result was violence that felt unsettling and uncomfortable, with both actors fully committing to the physical toll. Pitt later said the rawness was worth it, because those scenes helped cement Fight Club's reputation for gritty realism, and that dedication to realism carried over into the quieter moments too.
Human sacrifices were once made on the hills above this river.
Fact number 13, Pitt and Norton took soap-making lessons together. To bring authenticity to Tyler and the narrator's strange side hustle, Brad Pitt and Edward Norton didn't just fake it on camera. They actually learned how to make soap from scratch. The production arranged for the two actors to spend time with a real soap maker who walked them through the old-fashioned, hands-on approach of combining fat, and other ingredients. They got their hands dirty watching as the mixture hardened into usable bars. The training wasn't just for show. When Pitt and Norton perform the soap-making scenes in Fight Club, the steps they take are surprisingly accurate. Pitt even joked in interviews that he could probably whip up a batch at home if he had to. The detail added an extra layer of believability, grounding one of the movie's most bizarre story elements in real craft. What could have looked like a surreal throwaway gimmick instead became a gritty metaphor for transformation, destruction, and creation, all themes at the heart of the film. And speaking of authenticity, Helena Bonham Carter had her own unique way of preparing.
I'll have the clam chowder, the fried chicken with the baked potato with everything, and a chocolate chiffon pie.
Fact number 14, Helena Bonham Carter requested makeup artists to use their left hand. Helena Bonham Carter put a lot of thought into how Marla Singer should look on screen. She didn't want Marla to appear glamorous or polished, because that would clash with the character's self-destructive lifestyle and emotional instability. Instead, she came up with a clever idea for her makeup. She asked the makeup artist to apply it using her non-dominant hand, ensuring the lines would be uneven, the eyeliner smudged, and the lipstick slightly off. The result was brilliantly imperfect. Marla's face looked as chaotic as her inner world. Messy, careless, and slightly unsettling. This small but intentional detail captured her recklessness in a way that dialogue alone couldn't. Carter later explained that she wanted Marla to look like someone who didn't really care about herself. Someone who got ready in a haze of cigarette smoke and despair. That choice became one of the many subtle touches that made Marla one of the most unforgettable characters in Fight Club. And realism was always Fincher's goal, even if it meant clashing with Hollywood norms.
You know what? I really think it's time you got out of here.
Don't worry.
Fact number 15, the film was nearly rated NC-17. The MPAA initially pushed back hard on Fight Club, flagging its mix of graphic violence, twisted and the dark adult themes as being far too extreme for mainstream release. Early cuts of the movie came dangerously close to receiving an NC-17 rating, which at the time was considered a box office death sentence. Many theaters simply wouldn't screen films with that label. David Fincher, however, wasn't willing to water down his vision without a fight. He pushed back against the censors, negotiating line by line, frame by frame, to preserve the movie's raw impact. Some edits were unavoidable, though. The most notable cuts happened during the surreal scene between Tyler and Marla, which originally contained even more explicit imagery created with CGI. The MPAA insisted that certain shots were too graphic, forcing Fincher to trim them down. Even with the changes, the sequence remained wild, uncomfortable, and unforgettable. Exactly what Fincher wanted. The fact that the film ultimately secured an R rating was seen as a hard-won victory, proving how determined Fincher was to protect the movie's uncompromising edge. But even the censored version shocked audiences, and critics were deeply divided.
And it's not a science, and you're not talking about the truth.
Fact number 16, Roger Ebert hated it. Legendary critic Roger Ebert famously gave Fight Club one of its harshest early reviews, dismissing it as fascist and macho. He argued that the film glorified violence and chaos rather than critiquing them, and his review echoed the concern of many who initially saw the movie as irresponsible or even dangerous. But not everyone agreed. Other critics praised David Fincher's daring storytelling, razor-sharp visuals, and willingness to tackle uncomfortable truths about consumerism, masculinity, and identity. The polarized reactions only fueled the controversy, giving Fight Club an almost forbidden mystique when it first hit theaters. Some saw it as nihilistic provocation, while others viewed it as genius social satire. Over time, however, the conversation shifted. As audiences revisited the movie, especially after its massive success on DVD, its layered irony and biting critique became clearer. What was once dismissed as reckless has since been embraced as one of the most important and influential films of the 1990s, now widely regarded as a modern masterpiece. And not every critic caught the hidden details Fincher planted.
Apart from seasoning the lobster bisque, you farted on meringue.
Fact number 17, hidden clues foreshadow the twist. The reveal that Tyler Durden and the narrator are the same person didn't just come out of nowhere. David Fincher had been planting subtle hints from the very beginning. For sharp-eyed viewers, the truth was always lurking in the background. Tyler flashes on screen in single-frame subliminal shots before his official introduction, showing up in moments when the narrator feels most detached from reality. Characters occasionally acknowledge Tyler even when the narrator is the only one in focus, suggesting that they're really interacting with him instead. One of the most clever touches comes in group scenes where Brad Pitt's Tyler and Edward Norton's narrator never directly speak to each other if other people are present. Instead, conversations bounce around them, creating the illusion of two men while quietly reinforcing the fact that they are one and the same. These breadcrumbs made the twist feel both shocking and inevitable, rewarding viewers who went back for a second watch. What seemed like chaos on first viewing revealed itself as carefully constructed misdirection, one of Fincher's most masterful tricks. But the ending itself almost looked very different.
That I know. I don't even have to come into.
Fact number 18, the original ending was changed. In the book, the story ends with the narrator in a mental hospital believing he's in heaven. Fincher didn't like that ending. He wanted something more cinematic. So he created the now iconic shot of buildings collapsing while Where Is My Mind plays. It gave the film its unforgettable closing image. But Fincher didn't get everything his way. The studio drew the line at one thing. Fact number 19, the infamous one-frame gag almost didn't happen. At the end of the film, Fincher includes a single-frame explicit shot, just like Tyler's prank as a projectionist. Studio executives were horrified and tried to cut it. Fincher fought back, arguing it was essential to the movie's humor and point about subliminal manipulation. In the end, it stayed. And even after all the chaos, Fight Club found an unlikely afterlife.
They almost broke my arm! They were burning the fingertips of the law.
Fact number 20, the film inspired real fight clubs. After Fight Club hit theaters, life began imitating art in a way no one fully expected. Reports surfaced from cities around the world of actual underground fight clubs forming, with men meeting in basements, garages, and abandoned warehouses to trade punches. These groups claimed to be inspired directly by the film's gritty, unflinching depiction of bare-knuckle violence and the primal bond it seemed to create. For some, it was framed as an experiment in masculinity, a rebellion against modern comfort and routine, echoing the philosophy Tyler preaches on screen. But both David Fincher and author Chuck Palahniuk were both quick to clarify that neither the book nor the movie was meant as an instruction manual. The violence was always intended as a metaphor, not lifestyle advice. Still, the phenomenon revealed just how deeply the story resonated with audiences who felt alienated or trapped by consumer culture. The fact that Fight Club could inspire real-world imitations only added to its mythos, cementing its status as more than just a movie. It became a cultural flashpoint. And there you have it, 20 weird behind-the-scenes facts about Fight Club you didn't know. From Brad Pitt chipping his teeth to real underground clubs inspired by the film, it's clear this movie left a cultural scar unlike any other. Back in 1999, it may have been dismissed by critics and ignored by audiences. But today, it's remembered as one of the boldest, strangest, and most unforgettable films of its era. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Fight Club, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another nostalgia countdown. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite scene from Fight Club? Or better yet, which cult classic movie should I cover next? Because as Tyler Durden might say, the first rule of Nostalgia Club is, you always talk about Nostalgia Club.